Ambassador Chen Wei stood in the vast chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was bigger than any building on Earth. Stars shined through the clear dome above, and 12 massive platforms floated in a circle around him. On each platform sat a different alien species. Some had scales. Some glowed with inner light. Some had too many eyes. All of them looked down at the single human standing in the center. Chen straightened his simple black suit. Behind him, his small team of 5 humans waited quietly. They looked tiny in this huge space. The council had made the speaking platform human-sized, but it only made them look smaller. "The council recognizes Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth," announced a deep voice. It came from Speaker Zarthun of the Vorthak Empire. The Vorthak looked like a giant mantis made of silver metal. His forearms moved as he spoke. "You may present your case for Earth's membership." Chen had practiced this speech 1,000 times. "Honored council members," he began. His voice carried well in the chamber. The alien technology made sure everyone could hear. "Earth comes before you for the 3rd time. We have waited 50 years since first contact. We have learned your laws. We have shared our culture. We have opened our world to your observers." He pressed a button on his small device. Images appeared in the air above him. Pictures of Earth, humans and aliens working together. Children playing. Cities growing. We have proven we can contribute. Our scientists work with yours. Our artists create new forms of beauty. Our workers help build stations across the outer rim. The Luminary representative interrupted. These beings look like living crystals. Their voice sounded like singing. "Your technology remains primitive. You still use nuclear fusion. You have barely mastered hyperspace travel. How can such a young species contribute to our ancient union?" Chen had expected this. "We learn quickly. In 50 years, we have advanced more than some species do in 500. Our fusion reactors now power 30% of outer rim stations because they are simple and reliable. Sometimes simple is better." A laugh came from the Krieg platform. The Krieg were warriors, huge and covered in natural armor. "The humans have spirit," their representative said. "But spirit is not enough. They are too few. Only 12 billion on one world. What use are they?" "Numbers are not everything," Chen replied calmly. "We offer new perspectives. Every species here brings something different. That is what makes the council strong." The discussion went on for 3 hours. Each council member asked questions. Some seemed friendly. The peaceful Altari spoke kindly about human music. The mechanical synth approved of human mathematics, but Chen could see the truth in their eyes, or whatever they used to see. They had already decided. Finally, Speaker Zarthun called for silence. "We have heard Earth's case. Now we discuss." The council members turned off the translation devices for Chen. They spoke in the old language, which humans were not allowed to learn. Chen and his team stood in silence for another hour. They could not sit. The council had not provided chairs. It was a small insult, but an insult nonetheless. Sarah Knox, Earth's military advisor, shifted slightly beside Chen. She was young, only 30, but her eyes missed nothing. She watched how each council member moved. She studied their body language. Chen knew she was memorizing everything. "They're going to say no," whispered David Park, the youngest member of their team. He was fresh out of university, full of hope when they arrived. That hope was fading. "Be quiet," Chen whispered back. "Show no weakness." The translation devices turned on again. Speaker Zarthun stood on his platform. His height made him tower even more above the humans. "The council has voted. The results are 8 against, 4 in favor. Earth's application is denied." Chen felt his team tense behind him, but he kept his face calm. "May we know the reasons?" "You may." Zarthun's forearms spread wide. "The Vorthak Empire votes against. Humans have too much history of war. You fought among yourselves until barely a century ago. Such violence has no place in our peaceful council." The irony was not lost on Chen. The Vorthak had conquered 100 worlds before they became peaceful. The Luminari sang their refusal next. "Humans lack advancement. They are children playing with tools they do not understand." The next spoke through their telepathic representative. "Human minds are chaos. Each thinks alone, acts alone. They cannot join the greater harmony." One by one, 8 species explained why humanity was not worthy. Too violent, too primitive, too different, too few, too unpredictable, too independent, too young, too dangerous. Only 4 voted yes. The Altari who loved human art, the synth who respected human logic, the dwellers who lived in deep space and cared little for politics, and surprisingly, the Krieg, who admired human warrior spirit. This decision is final, Zarthun announced. Earth may apply again in 100 years. Until then, you remain a peripheral species. You may trade on the outer rim. You may not enter core worlds. You may not access advanced council technology. You may not participate in council decisions. Chen stood silent for a moment. His team waited for his response. The entire council waited. The recording systems waited. History waited. I understand, Chen said finally. His voice was steady, controlled. We thank the council for their time and consideration. That is all? Zarthun sounded surprised. Perhaps he expected begging. Or anger. Not quite. Chen looked up at each platform, meeting the eyes of every council member. Earth has spent 50 years offering friendship. We have been patient. We have been respectful. We have followed your rules and accepted your judgments. We have shown you our best. He paused, letting his words hang in the vast chamber. But I want the council to remember something. You judge us for our history of war, but that history taught us strength. You call us primitive, but we survived and thrived on a world that tried to kill us every day. You fear our independence, but it makes us creative. You dismiss our small numbers, but each human is worth 100 who have forgotten how to fight for survival. The council members shifted. Some looked amused. Others offended. Zarthun's mandibles clicked in irritation. You mistake our restraint for weakness, Chen continued. You see our offered friendship as need. You think because we came here asking to join, we need you, but we don't. We wanted to be part of something greater. We wanted to share what we have learned. We wanted to help, he turned to his team. We're leaving. As they walked toward the exit, Chen spoke one last time without turning around. We offered you our friendship. Remember that. When the time comes, and it will come, when you face something your ancient wisdom cannot solve, when your peaceful methods fail, when you need someone who remembers how to fight, how to survive, how to do the impossible, remember that you had the chance to make us allies. Remember that you chose to make us strangers instead. The massive doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. In the council chamber, Zarthun made a dismissive gesture. Dramatic species, these humans. Too emotional. We made the right choice. He turned to the next item on the agenda. Now about the trade disputes in the Vega system. But the Krieg representative kept staring at the closed doors. So did the Altari. Even some who voted against Earth looked uncomfortable. Outside the chamber, Chen's team walked through the station toward their small ship. Other aliens moved away from them, already treating them as outsiders. Word of the vote had spread quickly. That was beautiful, sir, Sarah Knox said quietly. Do you think they understood? Chen looked back at the massive council chamber. No, they've been in power too long. They've forgotten what it means to struggle. They see peace as the natural state of things. They don't understand that peace is something you have to fight to keep. So what do we do now? David Park asked. We go home. We tell Earth the news. And we prepare. Prepare for what? Chen started walking again. I've studied history, both ours and theirs. Every great empire, every powerful council, every ancient authority eventually faces a crisis they can't handle. Something new. Something unexpected. Something that doesn't follow their rules. And when that happens, they'll learn what humanity really is. And what are we? Sarah asked. Survivors, Chen said simply. We're survivors who offered to share our strength. They said no. When they come asking for that strength later, and they will, the price will be much higher. Their ship was small compared to the massive council vessels around it, but it was fast, efficient, and armed. Everything human ships were. As they boarded, Chen took one last look at Station Zenith Prime. It floated there in space, beautiful and ancient and arrogant. Their final error was the vote, he said to himself. Then he entered the ship. They had a long journey home, and Earth needed to know. Humanity's place in the galaxy would not be given. It would be taken. Not by force, but by necessity. The Council just didn't know it yet. 6 months had passed since Earth's rejection. The galaxy continued as it always had. Trade ships moved between worlds. The Council met every cycle to discuss small problems. Peace reigned as it had for 3,000 years. Commander Sarah Knox stood on the bridge of Earth's newest ship, the Vigilant. It floated in dark space far from any trade route. She watched her crew work. They were all young, all eager, all ready, Earth had not been idle these 6 months. "Commander, we're picking up something," Lieutenant Torres said from his station. "Hyperspace distortions. Big ones." Knox moved to look at his screen. "Where?" "Sagittarius sector. Near the council world of Thymi." Knox frowned. Thymi was a paradise world. 5 billion luminari lived there in cities made of living crystal. How big are these distortions? "Bigger than anything on record. Wait." "Commander, I'm getting emergency signals." The main screen lit up. The messages were in Council Standard, the language all species used for trade. But these were not trade messages. They were screams for help. Videos came through. Cities burning, ships exploding, things that looked like mechanical spiders, each the size of a building tearing through crystal towers like paper. "What are those things?" someone whispered. Knox knew. Earth's military had been studying old records, myths, and legends from the galaxy's edge. Stories the Council dismissed as primitive fears. "Devourers," she said quietly. "They're called Devourers." More signals came in. Not just from Thymi now. From 3 different Council worlds. All under attack. "All falling, Commander. Should we respond?" Torres asked. Knox thought for a moment. "No, we observe, we learn. Earth is not a Council member, remember? This is not our fight." She turned to her crew. "Record everything. Every tactic. Every weapon. Every weakness. Earth needs to know what's coming." Far away in the grand chamber of the Council, Speaker Zarthun stood frozen as the reports came in. The 12 platforms that usually held Council members were only half full. The others were racing back to defend their own worlds. How? The Altari representative's musical voice was broken with fear. "The border defenses. The warning systems. All gone," reported the synth. Their mechanical voice showed no emotion, but their lights blinked rapidly, a sign of stress. "The enemy appeared from nowhere. They do not use normal hyperspace. Our scientists cannot explain it." Zarthun tried to maintain order. "We must respond with our combined fleet." "Admiral Kelton, report," a hologram appeared. Admiral Kelton of the Vorthak Navy looked tired. Behind him, through the windows of his command ship, explosions lit up space. "Speaker, we engaged the enemy at Thymi. We lost 60% of our ships in the first hour." "Impossible." Zarthun's 4 arms waved in denial. "The Council fleet is the strongest in the galaxy." "Was," Kelton corrected. "Our weapons barely scratch them. They adapt to our shields in minutes. They don't negotiate. They don't retreat. They just consume. They're taking apart our ships and using the materials to build more of themselves." Another Council member spoke up. It was the next representative. "We tried to communicate with them telepathically. There's nothing there. No mind, no soul. Just hunger and calculation." "What about the defense platforms?" Zarthun asked desperately. "They walked through them," Kelton said. "Our formations, our tactics, everything we've used for 3,000 years of peace. It means nothing to them." The chamber fell silent. Then quietly the Krieg representative spoke. "Perhaps we should ask the humans for help." "The humans?" Zarthun's voice was full of scorn. "Those primitives? They don't even have proper energy weapons. What could they possibly do?" "They remember how to fight," the Krieg said simply. "Real fighting. Not our ceremonial battles. Not our honor duels. War. Absolutely not," Zarthun declared. "The Council has stood for millennia. We will not bow to a species we rejected. Admiral Kelton, gather all remaining ships at Kepler Station. We will make our stand there." But as the hours passed, the news got worse. The Devourers moved faster than anyone expected. They didn't need to rest. They didn't need supplies. They consumed entire moons to fuel themselves, turning rock and metal into more machines. Refugees began fleeing toward the outer rim. Billions of beings running from the core worlds to the edges of space, to the primitive areas, to places like the Sol system. On Earth, the World Council met in emergency session. They watched the same broadcast everyone was watching. Cities falling, fleets burning. An ancient empire crumbling in days. Do we help them? President Martinez asked the room. General Thompson, Earth's military commander, shook his head. They rejected us. Made it clear we're not worthy. Let them handle their own problems. We're better than that, said Director Chen Wei. He had returned from the failed embassy to lead Earth's intelligence service, but we help on our terms. Sarah Knox reports the Devourers will reach the outer rim in 3 weeks at their current pace. That includes us. Then we have 3 weeks to prepare, Martinez said. What do we know about them? Shen activated a hologram. It showed the mechanical spiders in detail. They're machines, but not like the synth, no consciousness. They're mining equipment that became something more. They consume, replicate, and spread. They've been doing it for maybe millions of years, moving from galaxy to galaxy. How do we fight them? The Council tries to fight with honor. Formation battles, clear communication, predictable tactics. Chen smiled grimly. Humans don't fight that way. We fight dirty. We fight smart. We fight to win. The Council will never ask for our help, Thompson said. They won't need to, Chen replied. We'll help anyway. Not for them. For the refugees. For the innocent. And to show the galaxy what humanity really is. Over the next week, Earth's factories worked without stopping. Every ship was armed. New weapons were built. Old strategies were updated. Humanity prepared for war in a way the Council never could. They had spent 3,000 years forgetting how to fight. Humans had never forgotten. Nox watched from her ship as more refugee vessels streamed past. Some asked for help. Earth provided food, medical aid, and directions to safe zones. But Earth ships stayed hidden, watching, learning. Commander, Taurus called out. I'm analyzing their attack patterns. The Devourers. They're predictable. Explain. They always attack the same way. Overwhelming force at a single point. No deception. No flanking. Just straight-ahead consumption. It works because they're so strong, but a smart enemy could use that against them, Nox finished. Good work. Send everything to Earth. They need to know. In the Council chamber, now moved to a mobile station for safety, Zarthun received the latest reports. Kepler Station was surrounded. The last of the Council fleet, 500 ships, waited there. The Devourers had over 3,000 vessels now, built from the wreckage of Council worlds. Speaker. Admiral Kelton appeared on the screen. His scales were dull with exhaustion. We need help, any help. The Krieg are right. We should ask the humans. Never, Zarthun said. But his voice was weak. Half the Council worlds were gone. Trillions were dead or fleeing. Sir, an aide rushed in. The refugee ships report something strange. Earth is organizing safe zones. They're protecting the evacuees. With what? Zarthun asked. Their primitive nuclear weapons? We don't know. But the refugees say the humans are preparing something. They're not running. They're getting ready to fight. Zarthun felt something he hadn't felt in his long life. Fear mixed with hope. The humans, those primitive, violent humans, were not running. Everyone else was running. The Ancient Council, the advanced species, the Peaceful Union, all running. But not the humans. Perhaps, whispered the Altari representative, we chose wrong. Zarthun said nothing. Outside the windows, more refugee ships passed. Many were heading toward Sol system, toward Earth, toward the species the Council had rejected. The Devourers were coming. The Council was failing. And somewhere in the Outer Rim, humanity was preparing to do what it did best. Survive, fight, win. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had survived on a hostile world. Why they had fought so many wars. Why they were dangerous. They were about to learn that the Council's greatest mistake was not just rejecting Earth. It was underestimating what humans could do when the galaxy needed warriors, not diplomats. The orbital shipyards above Earth looked different than they had 6 months ago. Where once there had been 10 platforms, now there were 50. Where once ships were built over months, now they came out every week. The entire planet had changed. Every factory produced weapons. Every scientist worked on new technology. Every citizen contributed something. Admiral Marcus Reyes stood in the command center of Orbital Platform 1. Through the massive windows, he could see Earth below, blue and green and alive. Around him, hundreds of humans worked at stations coordinating the largest military buildup in human history. Status report, he called out. Fleet Alpha ready. 40 ships, reported Captain Yuki Tanaka. Fleet Beta ready. 38 ships, added Captain James Wilson. Fleet Gamma ready. 42 ships, finished Captain Amara Okafor. 120 ships. It was nothing compared to the thousands the Council once had. But these ships were different. Reyes knew it. Everyone who saw them knew it. Admiral Director Chen is here, an aide announced. Chen Wei entered, followed by several people in lab coats. Scientists, the real weapons in this war. Director, Reyes greeted him. What news from the Council? They're down to their last stand at Kepler Station. Maybe 300 ships left. The Devourers have 4,000 now. Chen activated a hologram showing the galaxy. Red dots showed Devourer positions. They covered half the map. They'll reach us in 5 days. Then we move in 3, Reyes said. He turned to the scientists. Is it ready? Dr. Lisa Park, David's older sister and Earth's lead physicist, nodded. The Chaos Drive is tested and installed on all ships. The Council's hyperspace is predictable. You enter here, you exit there. The Devourers can track it. But our drive? It's based on quantum uncertainty. Even we don't know exactly where we'll come out. That sounds dangerous, Captain Wilson said. It is, Dr. Park admitted. But dangerous and unpredictable is very human, don't you think? Reyes smiled. What about the virus? Another scientist, Dr. Ahmed Hassan, stepped forward. Ready. The Council banned AI warfare 3,000 years ago. They thought it was too dangerous. The Devourers are machines, but they're old machines. Their code is complex but rigid. Our virus is simple but adaptive. It will spread through their network like wildfire. If we can get it into their systems, Reyes pointed out. That's where I come in, said a young voice. Everyone turned to see Lieutenant Maya Johansson. She was 23, the youngest pilot in the fleet. She had also beaten every simulation record ever set. My squadron will get you inside their defenses. We've been practicing with war games. Real war games, not the ceremonial combat the Council uses. Reyes looked at the assembled team. Scientists who had cracked alien technology in months. Pilots who grew up on video games that were more complex than Council military simulations. Engineers who had built weapons from scrap and determination. This was humanity's answer. The Council thinks we're primitive because we still use nuclear weapons, Reyes said to the room. They don't understand that we use them because they work. Simple, reliable, devastating. They think we're weak because we have no energy shields. They don't know we've been developing something better. He activated another hologram. It showed Earth's new ships. They looked different from Council vessels. Council ships were beautiful, smooth, elegant. Human ships were angular, rough, functional. They bristled with weapons. Adaptive armor, Dr. Park explained. It learns from what hits it. The first shot might hurt us. The second less. By the third, we're almost immune. The Devourers adapt too, but slowly. We adapt in real time. What about their numbers? Someone asked. 4,000 ships against our 120? Numbers are a Council way of thinking, Reyes said. They line up their ships and fight honorably. We don't. We hit and run. We ambush. We use their strength against them. We fight like humans always have when outnumbered. We fight smart. A communication came in. It was Sarah Knox from the Vigilant. Admiral, I'm tracking refugee ships heading to Earth, millions of them. The Council ships protecting them are failing. Help them, Reyes ordered immediately. But stay hidden. Don't show our capabilities yet. Over the next 2 days, Earth's hidden defense platforms destroyed Devourer scouts that came too close to refugee convoys. The attacks looked like accidents. Asteroids happening to hit enemy ships. Solar flares at just the right moment. The refugees were saved, but they didn't know by whom. Then came the message everyone expected. Admiral Kelton of the Council fleet appeared on the emergency channel. Behind him, the bridge of his ship shook from impacts. This is Admiral Kelton to any ships in range. Kepler Station is falling. The Council fleet is down to 100 ships. If anyone can hear this, we need help, please, the message repeated. Council ships never said please. They ordered, they demanded, they decreed. They didn't beg. In Earth's command center, everyone looked at Admiral Reyes. Sir? Captain Tanaka asked. Do we respond? Reyes was quiet for a moment. Then he activated the fleet-wide communication. All ships, this is Admiral Reyes. You've trained for this. You've prepared for this. The galaxy thinks we're primitive warriors. They're half right. We are warriors. But there's nothing primitive about us. He looked at the star map. Kepler Station was 2 days away by normal hyperspace. By Chaos Drive, maybe hours, maybe minutes. Nobody knew for sure. We're not doing this for the Council, he continued. We're doing it because it's right. Because we can. Because when everyone else ran, humans stood their ground. That's who we are. That's what we do. We fight the fights others can't. We survive when others don't. We win when winning is impossible. He turned to Dr. Park. Activate the Chaos Drives. Admiral, Chenwei said quietly, once we show them what we can do, everything changes. The galaxy will know what humans really are. Good, Reyes replied. It's time they learned. We spent 50 years being polite. Being patient. Following their rules. That ends now. The human ships began to power up. But these were not the gentle hums of council vessels. These were roars. Nuclear engines pushed to their limits. Chaos drives tearing holes in space-time itself. Weapons charged with the fury of a species that had fought for every inch of progress. In his cabin, Reyes looked at a picture on his desk. His grandfather, who had fought in Earth's last war. His father, who had helped build Earth's first starship. His daughter, who was now piloting one of the fighters. 3 generations, from World Wars to Star Wars. The council voted against us, he said to the picture. They thought we were too violent, too primitive, too dangerous. They were right about one thing. We are dangerous, but not to them. To the things that threaten them, he put on his combat suit. Unlike the ceremonial armor of council admirals, this was functional. It could seal against vacuum. It had built-in weapons. It was made for war, not parades. On the bridge, his crew was ready. Young faces, eager and determined. They had grown up knowing aliens existed, knowing the galaxy had rejected them. Now they would show that galaxy what it had rejected. All ships report ready, Captain Tanaka announced. Enemy positions? Reyes asked. 4,000 Devourer ships surrounding Kepler Station. The Council fleet is down to 80 ships now. They're falling fast. Reyes sat in his command chair. Around him, 120 human ships prepared to do what the Council's thousands couldn't. Not through superior technology, not through ancient wisdom, but through human will, human creativity, and human refusal to accept defeat. Send a message to Earth, Reyes ordered. Tell them we're going to save the galaxy. Not because they asked us to, but because we can, he looked at his crew. These were the children of a rejected world, the offspring of a species deemed unworthy. They were about to prove the Council wrong in the most human way possible, by doing the impossible. Activate chaos drives, he ordered. All ships, we jump in 30 seconds. The space around Earth's fleet began to bend and twist. Reality itself seemed to protest. The Council's observers, those few who were watching, couldn't believe their readings. This wasn't hyperspace. This was something else. Something chaotic. Something unpredictable. Something very, very human. 10 seconds, someone counted down. Reyes gripped his chair. Remember, we're not trying to win a battle. We're trying to change the galaxy. Show them that humans don't fight fair. We fight to win. 5 seconds. For Earth, someone whispered. For humanity, another added. For the galaxy, Reyes finished. Jump! 120 ships vanished into chaos itself. The galaxy was about to see what humanity could do when it stopped playing by the rules. Space above Kepler Station was filled with death. Burning ships tumbled through the void. Pieces of the massive station itself floated like metallic islands. The Council fleet, once proud and mighty, was down to 60 ships. They formed a final defensive circle, shields flickering, weapons nearly depleted. Admiral Kelton stood on his damaged bridge. Half his crew was dead. His beautiful ship, the Pride of Vorthak, was held together by emergency force fields. Around him, 4,000 Devourer ships moved in perfect synchronization, closing for the kill. Admiral, his tactical officer gasped through blue blood. Our shields are at 7%. We have minutes at most. Kelton closed his 4 eyes. This was the end. 3,000 years of peace ended in 3 weeks of slaughter. The Council had forgotten how to fight, and now they would pay the price. Then space went insane. Reality twisted. Where there had been empty void, suddenly there were tears. Not the smooth portals of hyperspace, but jagged rips that hurt to look at. Ships came through them. Not many, just over 100. But these ships were different. What in the void? Kelton's voice trailed off. The human ships had arrived. But they didn't arrive in formation like Council fleets. They appeared everywhere. Above the Devourers. Below them. Inside their formations. Some appeared so close to enemy ships that they scraped paint off each other. On the bridge of Earth's flagship Resilience, Admiral Reyes shook his head to clear the disorientation. Chaos drive jumps were rough. Half his crew was vomiting, but they had made it status. He barked. We're everywhere, sir. Captain Tanaka reported, amazement in her voice. The chaos drives worked. We're scattered throughout the entire battle space. Good. That's exactly where we want to be. Reyes activated the fleet command. All ships execute Operation Wasp Nest, sting and move. Don't give them a chance to adapt. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries. The human ships didn't form battle lines. They didn't announce themselves. They just started shooting. But not with the elegant energy beams of council weapons. Humans used everything. Nuclear missiles, kinetic railguns that fired metal rods at near light speed, mines that they dropped like breadcrumbs, even primitive chemical explosives that confused devourer sensors. Lieutenant Maya Johansson led her squadron of 12 fighters directly at a devourer mothership. The massive vessel was the size of a city, bristling with weapons that could vaporize a council cruiser. But Maya's fighters were tiny, fast, and insane. "Remember your training," she told her pilots. "We're not flying spaceships. We're playing the universe's deadliest video game. And humans are very good at games." Her fighters danced between the devourer's weapons. Where council pilots flew in straight lines and predictable patterns, the humans spun, rolled, and changed direction without warning. They had grown up on flight simulators that were harder than real combat. Maya's fighter launched a single missile. Not at the devourer's weapons or engines, but at what looked like a waste port. The missile went in and exploded deep inside the ship. It was a small explosion, but it was enough. Dr. Hassan's virus was in the missile. It spread through the devourer's systems like water through a sponge. Within seconds, the mothership began attacking its own escorts. On the council flagship, Admiral Kelton watched in disbelief. "They're using the devourers against each other. How?" "Electronic warfare," his science officer said, voice full of awe and fear. "It's been banned for 3,000 years. The humans are using forbidden tactics." But that was just the beginning. Captain Wilson's fleet group executed a maneuver that shouldn't have been possible. They flew their ships in seemingly random patterns, but there was method to the madness. They were herding smaller devourer ships into a kill box. When 50 enemy vessels were in the right position, Wilson gave the order. "Drop the presents." His ships released hundreds of small objects. They looked like debris. The devourers ignored them. Then they exploded, not normal explosions. These were gravity bombs, another primitive human weapon. They created tiny black holes that lasted only seconds, but that was enough. The 50 devourer ships were crushed into balls of metal the size of houses. The devourers tried to adapt. They always adapted, but humans weren't giving them time. As soon as the machines adjusted to one tactic, the humans used another. Ships that had been fighting suddenly ran away, leading pursuers into ambushes. Others played dead, then came alive when enemies passed. Admiral Reyes watched the battle from his command center. His ship, the Resilience, hadn't fired a shot yet. He was waiting. "Sir?" Chen Wei said from the communication station. "The devourers are confused. Their network is fragmenting. The virus is working, but they're trying to isolate it." "Then it's time for the hammer," Reyes said. He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the humanity's fist." Deep in the Resilience's belly, engineers activated a weapon that should not exist. It was too simple, too brutal, too human. It was a 20-megaton nuclear warhead attached to the ship's own engines. The entire rear third of the Resilience was designed to detach and become the galaxy's largest missile. "Admiral," Captain Tanaka said quietly, "if we do this, I know, we'll be dead in space. But look," Reyes pointed at the tactical display. "The Devourer command ship. It's right there. Cut off the head and the body dies." The Devourer command ship was massive, 20 times the size of the Resilience. It sat at the center of the enemy fleet, protected by hundreds of smaller vessels. No council ship could reach it, but humans didn't think like the council. "All crew to escape pods," Reyes ordered. "Command staff to the bridge emergency capsule." As the crew evacuated to the front sections of the ship, Reyes opened a channel to the entire battle. "Council fleet, human fleet, this is Admiral Reyes. You might want to close your eyes." He turned his ship toward the Devourer command vessel and pushed the engines to maximum. The Resilience shot forward like a bullet. Devourer ships tried to stop it, but the human vessel's adaptive armor had learned from every hit in the battle. Weapons that would have killed it an hour ago now barely scratched the paint. When the Resilience was close enough, Reyes gave the final order. "Detach humanity's fist. All remaining crew brace for impact." The rear of the ship separated and accelerated even faster. Reyes and his remaining crew rode the front section away as fast as they could. Behind them, 20 megatons of human fury slammed into the Devourer command ship. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, the Devourer command ship was gone. So were 300 enemy vessels that had been too close. But more importantly, the Devourer fleet stopped moving in synchronization. Without their command ship, they became individuals instead of a collective. And individuals could be hunted. All ships. Reyes commanded from his half-destroyed bridge. Pick your targets. Show them how humans hunt. What followed was not a battle. It was a massacre. Without coordination, the Devourers fell back on basic programming. They attacked the nearest targets. They consumed debris. They even attacked each other as the virus spread. Human ships picked them apart like wolves taking down scattered sheep. But the humans didn't fight alone. Seeing the tide turn, the remaining council ships found their courage. The Krieg warriors roared battle cries that hadn't been heard in centuries. The Altari sang songs of war their ancestors had forbidden. Even the peaceful Luminari turned their mining lasers into weapons. 3 hours later, it was over. Of 4,000 Devourer ships, none remained functional. Some were destroyed. Others drifted powerless, infected with the virus that turned them into expensive scrap metal. The great threat that had consumed half the galaxy was ended by 120 human ships and the will to do what was necessary. Admiral Kelton's damaged ship approached the remains of the Resilience. The human vessel was barely holding together, but somehow Reyes and most of his crew had survived. Admiral Reyes. Kelton's voice came through the communication system. You used forbidden tactics. Banned weapons, illegal warfare methods. Yes, Reyes replied simply. We did what was necessary to win. That's what humans do. There was a long pause. Then Kelton spoke again. Thank you. On the bridge of the Vigilant, Sarah Knox watched the aftermath. Human ships were already organizing rescue operations. They shared their food, their medical supplies, their technology with the Council survivors. No gloating. No demands. Just help, Commander, Lieutenant Torres said. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. They want to know if we need support. Knox smiled. Tell them we're fine. Tell them humanity just saved the galaxy. And tell them the Council is about to learn what they rejected. In the wreckage of Kepler Station, floating in an emergency shelter, Speaker Zarthun stared at the reports. 120 primitive ships had done what thousands of advanced vessels couldn't. They had won not through superior technology or ancient wisdom, but through creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to break every rule of civilized warfare. We were wrong, he said to no one. We were so very wrong about the humans. The galaxy had been saved. But more than that, the balance of power had shifted. The Council's time of unquestioned authority was over. The age of humanity had begun. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Kepler Station. The galaxy looked different now. Where once there had been rigid trade routes controlled by the Council, now there were free paths protected by human patrol ships. Where once there had been one rule for all species, now there were choices. The Grand Assembly Hall had been rebuilt. It looked the same from outside, but inside everything had changed. The 12 floating platforms were still there, but now there was a 13th. It sat at the same level as the others, not below. On it stood Ambassador Chen Wei, older now, his hair completely gray from the stress of the past year. Speaker Zarthun called the session to order. His voice was different than it had been before. Less commanding, more collaborative. The events of the past year had humbled him, humbled them all. We gathered today for a historic vote, Zarthun announced. The question before us is not whether Earth should join the Council. The question is whether the Council should join Earth's new alliance. Chen Wei stood quietly, remembering another day in this same hall. Then he had begged. Now he simply waited. The year had changed everything. After the Devourers were defeated, humanity had not done what the Council expected. They had not demanded payment. They had not claimed conquered territories. They had simply helped. Human engineers had rebuilt destroyed cities. Human doctors had treated alien wounded without asking for payment. Human teachers had shared their technology freely. But more than that, they had shared their philosophy. The idea that strength came not from unity of thought, but from diversity of action. That peace was not the absence of conflict, but the choice not to fight. That sometimes, to protect what you love, you had to be willing to do terrible things. The Vorthak Empire votes yes, Admiral Kelton announced. He had survived Kepler Station and now served as his people's representative. Humans showed us that our strength had become weakness. Our peace had become stagnation. We vote to join the Terran Galactic Alliance. One by one the votes came in. The Luminari, who had seen their crystal cities rebuilt by human hands. The Altari, who had learned human music and found it beautiful. The Synth, who had integrated human chaos mathematics into their logic cores and become more creative. Even the Nex, the telepathic species who had once feared human minds, voted yes. They had touched human thoughts during the battle and found not chaos but determination, not violence but protection, not hate but fierce love for life. The vote was unanimous. 12 voices said yes to joining humanity's alliance. Chen Wei finally spoke. The council asked to join our alliance, but I think you misunderstand what that means. The Terran Galactic Alliance is not a government. It's not a hierarchy. It's a promise. A promise that when darkness comes, we stand together. That when one falls, others lift them up. That strength is shared, not hoarded. He activated a hologram. It showed the galaxy, but not as the council had always shown it. There were no core worlds and rim worlds. No advanced and primitive sectors. Just thousands of star systems, all equal, all connected. We accept your application, Chen said, and there were gasps from the council members. They had not expected it to be so easy, but not as members. As partners, as equals, as friends. That simple. Zarthun asked. After we rejected you? After we dismissed you? You made a mistake, Chen replied. Humans are familiar with mistakes. We've made thousands of them. The difference is we learn from them. Have you learned from yours? Yes, Zarthun said quietly. We have learned. Outside the assembly hall, the galaxy was buzzing with activity. Human trade ships, ugly and efficient, flew next to elegant council vessels. In schools across 1,000 worlds, children were learning human history alongside their own. They learned about wars, yes, but also about redemption, about falling and getting back up, about being knocked down 7 times and standing up 8. On Earth, a new monument stood in the capital. It wasn't a statue of a victorious general or a proud politician. It was a simple wall with names. Every human who had died in the Devourer War. Every council citizen they had failed to save. A reminder that victory always had a cost. Sarah Knox, now Admiral Knox, stood before the monument with a group of alien children on a school trip. They were learning about the war, about humanity, about what had really happened. Were humans always strong? A young luminary asked, her crystal form catching the sunlight. Knox smiled. No, we were weak for most of our history. We couldn't fly. We had no claws or armor. We weren't the fastest or strongest on our own planet. But we had one advantage. What? The children asked together. We never gave up. When we were cold, we made fire. When we were hungry, we grew food. When we were threatened, we became dangerous. Not because we wanted to, but because we had to. That's what humans are. We're the species that refuses to lose. An older Vorthak student raised a claw. My teacher says humans are warriors. But you helped us after the war. You didn't conquer us. Being a warrior doesn't mean loving war, Knox explained. It means being ready for war. We fight so others don't have to. We're strong so we can protect the weak. That's the human way. In the council chambers, the meeting was ending. But Chen Wei had one more thing to say. There's something else, he announced. The Devourers are gone from our galaxy, but they came from somewhere. There are other galaxies, other threats. The Council spent 3,000 years looking inward, protecting what you had. Humans look outward. We explore, we expand. We prepare. He showed another hologram. Ships were being built, not just human ships now, but fusion designs. Every species contributing their best technology, guided by human innovation and drive. We're going to find where the Devourers came from, Chen said. We're going to make sure they never threaten anyone again. And we're going to find who else is out there. The Council was content to rule a single galaxy. Humans dream bigger. That's impossible, someone said. The distances are too vast. Impossible? Chen smiled. A year ago, you thought beating the Devourers was impossible. You thought chaos drives were impossible. You thought a primitive species could never save the galaxy. Humans specialize in impossible. Later that day, Chen stood where he had stood a year and a half ago, the same spot where Earth had been rejected. But now, instead of leaving in defeat, he was surrounded by friends. Admiral Kelton discussing tactics with human generals. Luminary scientists working with human engineers. Even Zarthun, the proud speaker who had dismissed humanity, now listened eagerly to human philosophers. Director Chen, A young human aide approached. "There's a message from Earth from President Martinez." Chen read it and smiled. It was simple. "Well done, come home. We have work to do." As he prepared to leave, Zarathun approached him. "Ambassador?" "Director Chen, may I ask you something?" "Of course. When you left that day after we rejected you, you said we would regret our vote. Did you know this would happen?" Chen thought for a moment. "I knew something would happen. The galaxy is too big, too old for the Council to control forever. I didn't know it would be the Devourers. But I knew humanity would be ready when crisis came. We always are." "How? How are you always ready?" "Because we never forgot what you forgot," Chen said. "That peace is not a right. It's a privilege. One you have to fight to keep." The Council thought they had evolved past conflict. But conflict doesn't care what you think. It comes anyway. Humans know this. We prepare for it. And when it comes, we face it. He started walking toward his ship, then turned back one more time. "The Council voted against Earth. It was your final error. But not because you rejected us. Because you revealed that you had forgotten how to judge strength. You saw our conflicts and thought we were weak. You saw our struggles and thought we were primitive. You never realized that our struggles made us strong. Our conflicts taught us to survive. Our primitiveness was actually adaptability." The Council members listened in silence. "But that's over now," Chen continued. "We're partners now. The galaxy is safer because humans and Council species work together. We bring war knowledge. You bring peace wisdom. Together we're stronger than either alone." As his ship lifted off, Chen looked back at the Grand Assembly Hall one last time. It looked the same, but everything had changed. The Council that had rejected Earth was gone. In its place was something new, something better, something that included humanity not as subjects but as leaders. On Earth that night, children of a dozen species played together in parks. Human kids taught alien younglings how to play tag and hide and seek, games that seemed simple but taught survival skills: running, hiding, working together, the skills that had saved the galaxy. In her apartment, Admiral Knox received a message. It was from the edge of the galaxy. Scout ships had found something, signs of another Devourer fleet, 10 times larger, heading for another galaxy. The war was over, but the watch had begun. She smiled. The Council would have formed committees and debated for years. Humans would be ready in months, because that's what humans did. They prepared. They adapted. They survived. And when the time came, they won. The galaxy had learned its lesson. When darkness comes, you don't need ancient wisdom or advanced technology. You need someone willing to fight dirty. Someone willing to break the rules. Someone willing to sacrifice everything for others. You need humans.